Have I got a treat for you today? Have you ever needed a gift for a bridal shower or a Christmas gift or a welcome to your new home gift, birthday gift? It doesn't matter, any gift, just being my friend gift, whatever. We've got the gift for you today. We're thinking outside the box a little on this one, but you're gonna like it. You can use any fabric for what we're about to make. But we chose this line right here, which is called Sunnyside. Beautiful line of fabric. You can use pre-cuts for this. You can use pretty much any pattern you want for this. But we cut 1 2.5-inch strip off of each of these bolts. Yes, we could have used a jelly roll or anything like that, pre-cuts, but we didn't. We had the line, so we just cut a 2.5-inch strip off of each one, and this is what we've come up with. Here's our strips of all of the line of Sunnyside that we have left. So that's this right here. And now let's go get started. Okay, we're over at the sewing machine and we are going to sew our strips together into one long piece. This is what we're going to be making. This is a hot pad we've made, and we're just going to make it bigger to be a table runner / hot pad at the same time. We don't have to pick it up from the table. We can leave it there, put all of our dishes on that, and not have to have 10 different hot pads on the table. We've also made it this size in a regular hot pad size. So what I'm trying to get across is you can do this in any size you want. You can do it in a small normal size hot pad. You can do it in a 9x13 Pyrex dish size hot pad. Or you can do it how we're about to do it, which is the table runner across the table. One hot pad for the whole table. It'll have Insulbrite in it, which is heat, holds in the heat so that you can put the hot pads on it and not damage the table. So let's get started and sew these strips together. We're going to take one strip and another strip, put them right sides together, and we're going to sew a 1/4-inch seam all the way down that side. So we're going to take it, start with that 1/4-inch seam, and we're going all the way down. You can use anything for this. You can use scraps. You can do stars instead of strips. You can use any quilt pattern out there you can use for this. We're just going to do the strips for simplicity reasons and so that I can show y'all how to do this and it be easier in case you've not done this before. But we're just going to take these strips and sew them together like this. I've already sewn some together and they're like this. And again, you can do it any size you want. This one's rather large, but it's going on a large table. It'll run all the way across the table, giving room for one plate on each side, all the way down the table, and we can put hot dishes anywhere on this hot pad. So we're going to keep on going and we'll come back when we've got it all stitched together. Okay, here we are again. This time we've got our top put together. There's our strips that we have sewn together. I know this looks big, but the table this is going on is big, and it's going to be the center of the table. We've cut it to where we have a room for each plate on each side of the table. Again, you can do this any size you want. You can do it this big, however big you want it. And also, you can use a jelly roll for this and not have cuts off the yardage like I did. You can use scraps, you can use any pattern. You can make it stars, you can make it flying geese, whatever you want to make it. I'm doing strips so that it's easy to show you how to do this, and I do like strips, so that's what we're doing. And we have used the Sunnyside line from Moda on this pattern, this table runner. So now we're going to take it and we're going to layer it and show you the next step. We have already picked our backing fabric out. which we picked this one. I cut it the width of the table runner hot pad, and then I sewed two together because mine is long enough to need to do that. Then I also have a strip of batting that is going to go in the middle of this, and a strip of Insulbrite. If you don't know what Insulbrite is, it looks like this on the roll. We have it in the shop, we ship it. If you want to order it, we've got it. It is what goes in the middle of a hot pad or a oven mitt, and it holds the heat in, so you can now put this on the table and have the hot items on top of it, and it's not going to transfer that heat down to the table, so making a ring or such on the table. So Insulbrite is very important. Insulbrite, batting, backing, and my topping that I made. We're going to make a sandwich out of that, with the top being on top, the bottom, and those two pieces in the middle. Doesn't matter which way they go, but does need one batting and one Insulbrite in the middle of this. So we're going to piece it together. Before I do anything else, you're going to iron this flat, and you can iron several ways. You can iron using a table like this that we've made that is a little ironing station, works good. Or if you have a wool mat, you can use it. The wool mats are wonderful. The ironing station is wonderful too, don't get me wrong. I do not like ironing, but these two things are good. And then we've got our little Aliso iron that comes with a little trivet where you can hang it and you can lay it flat and it won't burn. So this right here is wonderful. That's my setup for ironing. And now that I have already ironed it, I'm to the very most essential part of this project, to the M&Ms. I hate ironing, so I have to have some kind of prize when I finish my ironing, and M&Ms are my prize. So there we go. We're going to have this in just a second. We are back from our little treat now and ready to start sewing. So I've got my set of the topper, the quilt top that I made, the backing, and then in the middle I've got sandwiched a piece of batting and a piece of Insulbrite. And I've got them pinned together so that I can start sewing. Now I can put this on the long arm and I can quilt it and be done in no time. Or I can do it on the sewing machine, which is what I'm going to do this time to show you that it can be done on the sewing machine. I'm going to take it, you can do again like you could with this quilt top. You can do any pattern. The quilting is the same way. You can do cross hatch across it, you can do straight lines, you can do meandering, you can do circles, whatever you want to do. But for ease of showing you how to do this, I'm going to do the straight lines, and I'm just going to follow these lines here to make it even easier. So I'm going to show you how easy it is. If you have a quilting foot, now's a good time to put it on. If you don't have one, you still can use your regular foot and quilt along on this, which is what I'm going to show you again. So I'm going to start right at that seam, and I'm going to do my stitching a little bit off of that seam. I want to do maybe a 1/4 inch on the side of the seam. So I'm going to put my foot down where I want it to start, and I'm going to start stitching. I'm going to take my pins out. I know some people run over their pins. I do not like running over my pins. So I am not going to run over my pins. I'm taking them out, and then I'm going to start sewing. Again, if you have a quilting foot, good time to put it on. If not, you can use your regular foot. Stitch all the way across it, following that seam. And then I'm going to cut it. Now I've got that seam right there already in. And I'm just going to do that all the way across on all of these seams. Pick whatever pattern you want, go with it. It'll look pretty any way you do it, but this is the way I'm doing it. And stay tuned, we'll be right back when all these seams are finished. In the meantime, I might need another pack of M&Ms, but we'll see. We're towards the end, so I wanted to show you how we're doing this. We're still doing the 1/4 inch on the side of the seam, but I'm gonna roll this up and push it under this machine, the arm of the machine, throat, and then I'm just gonna stitch along. I'm still keeping about a 1/4 inch on the side of that seam. I'm letting the foot here be my guide to make it a straight line. And I'm going to keep going like that till I get to the end. I've only got a little bit left to do, but I'm not going to go from this side in and that side in. I could if I pinned it really well, but I've just got sporadic pins on it. If you pin it really, really good, you can do that, and then it's not so bulky in the middle of the machine right here. But since I haven't got it pinned so heavily, I'm going to go from one side on out, and I'm just going to tighten my roll here in the middle. Because if I went from out to in and out to in and not pinned it so heavily, I'm going to have wrinkles in here because I've not pinned it so, and I'm going to have issues in here, and I don't want that. So I'm going to keep going from one side to the other till I get to the end. We'll be back and I'll show you the next step, which is trimming it down. We've now sewn it all and we are ready to trim. So we're going to unroll it, we're going to pick a side, lay it flat, and then we're going to trim it. Make sure it's straight. Trim down the side. It's got several layers, so you're going to want to cut it a couple times, unless you've got a brand new blade, which I do not. Then I'm going to do the same thing for this side. Lay it back straight again. Pick the end and trim it off. Once you've trimmed off that side and the other side, you're going to trim down each side to get the edges even, and then we are ready to bind it. Like I said, this is a very large one, but it's going to fit the table that I'm putting it on. If you want to do it smaller, do it smaller. If you want to make it pot holder size, Pyrex dish side, 2 or 3 size, just for a small kitchen table, that's fine. You can do whatever size you want. That's what makes this so neat, is you can do anything with it. So don't think inside the box, think outside the box for this one. So this is how we've gotten it so far. Now we're going to bind it. We've taken a fabric of our choice, which is one of the fabrics in this line that we did this table runner with, and we've cut 2.5 inch strips. You will need enough strips to make it all the way around the project, whatever size your project is, and then add a little bit of length to that, because we will need to turn it and head it back the other way when we're making our binding. You'll understand in the next step if you're not following me on that one. But cut your strips 2.5 inches wide, enough to go around the project and a little extra. And then we'll head on back to the sewing machine and we'll start making the binding. Now that we've got our strips cut, we need to attach them into one long strip so we can finish this binding up. We're going to take one piece and lay it down right side up. We're going to take the other piece and lay it right sides together, so the top is the back side of the fabric, the opposite direction, so that it looks like this. Okay, and then you're going to sew diagonally from this corner to this corner. So we're going to sew that. And then once we've sewn that seam, we've got that diagonal seam, we're going to cut anything above 1/4 inch off right here, just to get rid of that bulk. And then when we open it up, it's going to look like that. So we attach all of our strips like this, and then once we have this big long strip of binding, we're going to take it and we're going to iron it like this, wrong sides together, right side out, so it should look like that. all the way down the length of it. Now we've got our binding folded in half and pressed all the way down the length of this binding. We're going to throw it to the side, and we're going to take the long side of our table runner, and we're going to put this binding along the side of one of those sides of the length of it. We're going to take a pin and we're going to pin it. But we're not going to pin it at the very top of the piece of binding. We're going to leave a little bit, about this much of it, just hanging. We're not going to sew that just yet because we're going to attach that when we get around the other side of it. We'll attach them together. So we're going to take this to the sewing machine. We are going to sew a 1/4 inch seam all the way down this side, and then we'll show you the next step. Once we get to the 1/4 inch away from that edge, we're going to stop sewing and we're going to pull it out from the machine. Some people just pull it out, don't cut that thread, and continue with what I'm about to do, but I prefer to cut that thread, so it's up to you on which way you want to do that one. But then when we get to the end, we've got all this hanging and we're done at the end of the table runner. So we're going to take it, we're going to put our finger on the end of that table runner. Then we're going to take the binding and we're going to hold it straight up in the air. We're going to turn it to the right so that it now faces the same, this is running along the same way we're about to sew. And then you're going to find that you made a angle right there, and that's what you want. You're going to hold that piece down, that angle that you just made when you turned it from here to here. You're going to put your fingers there, hold it back up, throw it over your hand so it's now going the direction you're wanting it to go. Put your other hand on top of that piece, let your other hand out, and now you've got your binding going the direction you want. So we're going to take it from here, put our hand there, pick it up, take it to the sewing machine, and from the very edge, before when you went this way, you stopped at a 1/4 inch. Now when you're starting this way, you're going to go straight from the edge. So we're going to put it at the edge, and we're going to sew a 1/4 inch seam down this side, just like we did a minute ago. And once you get past that corner, you'll see that you've got a flip up right here. That's what you want, because we're going to have to flip it over in a minute to finish this binding. So that's exactly what you wanted. You can sew this from the front or the back. I usually sew it from the back to the front, but I wasn't paying attention this time. So either way is fine. It's not wrong either way. It's just when you do it from the back and pull it over to the front, you can do your seam right here. And if you get off a little on the other side, it won't show. You'd want that if you do get off a little bit on that seam, you want that to be on the back. So that's why I normally sew it from the back to the front. But I was videoing and I wasn't paying attention, so my mistake. But still, it'll work. It's just the same thing. It's just I can't make a mistake. So I'm going to go all the way to the edge of this 1/4 inch seam. And then I'm going to do the same thing I just did a minute ago. And I'm going to do that on all 4 corners. I'm going to stop at about a 1/4 inch. I'm going to cut my thread, pull it out. Again, I'm going to take my fingers and put them right there on the edge of that fabric. I'm going to pick it up. I'm going to flip it over to the right so that my fabric is going just the same way that this piece I want it to go in a minute. Then I've got that angle like that where I've flipped it over. Remember I did like this, and then I flipped it this way. So now I've got that angle like that. I'm going to put my finger there, hold this in the air, flip it over my hand, take my other hand, put it on top of that, pull my other hand out, and now this fabric for the binding is going the direction it needs to go, and it looks like that. So then I'm going to take it to the machine and I'm going to sew at 1/4 inch, just like I did before, all the way down the side till I get to that corner, and I'm going to repeat this process again until I've done all 4 corners. Once you get about 6 or so inches, roughly, you don't have to measure it, but just about 6 or so inches from where that first piece we sewed on lays flat, so from about there to where you're stopping to sew, make it about 6 inches gap. You'll have a lot of binding left over hanging. Let it go, cut your thread, pull it out. So now, from where I finished sewing, which I'm gonna move this so you'll see it, is right there, to right here is about 6 inches, give or take. Then we're gonna take an end piece of this binding and just clip a little piece off, doesn't matter what size. We know that when we open this up, from here to here is 2.5 inches, because that was the size of our binding that we cut. So we know we don't care about this size. We care about from here to here is 2.5 inches. And we need to know what 2.5 inches is, because we're gonna lay it right here at the top of that first piece we left hanging. We're gonna take that top and match this piece up to that. I'll turn it upside down so you can see it. Right there. So now that's just laying flat on that. We're going to take our binding piece and lay it over it. And then we're going to cut to where this little piece we cut a minute ago off the end of the binding, where it lays. So now we know that from here to here is 2.5 inches. It's an overlay. So these two binding pieces overlap by 2.5 inches, and that's what we want. We're going to take those and we're going to put them, we're going to take that first pin out. We're going to take this right sides together and turn them at the angle. So you've got one going one way and one going another way, and the right sides are together. Then we're going to sew from here to here. So we're going to sew across there with a 1/4 inch seam allowance. And then we're going to cut our thread. And that top portion again, we're going to cut it just like we've done before, because that cuts out the bulkiness. So now this piece that we cut, we can just throw it away. Or we can use it in a scrap quilt. That's even better. I'll get it out. But we're going to take this, and when we open it back up, you'll see that this piece lays perfect. So it fits perfect. There's no overlap and there's no extra or shortage there, because we measured that 2.5 inch. So now we're going to sew from where we stopped to where we started, and then we're going to come back and flip it. So we're going to sew this 1/4 inch seam allowance all the way down this side. Then we're going to cut our thread and pull it out. And now we've got all of our binding on the top done. And again, I normally sewed this to the back. I wasn't paying attention when I started this, but that is fine. It works either way. It's just if you do it on the back and move it over to the front, this next seam that I'm going to do is going to be in the perfect spot on the front. And if you go over on the back, it won't matter, because it's the back and you won't see it as well. So either way works, but that's how I normally do it. Now I'm going to flip it upside down. And I've got the back side up, and I show no binding on it. But what I need to do is I need to get this other binding that's on the front and flip it over to the back. So you can, at this point, you can go around with the Wonder Clips and clip it, or you can go around and pin it, or I just go around and I just start sewing. So it's up to you either way you want to do it. But you're going to flip it to the back. You do not want to pull it. If you pull it, look what happens. You're going to have all this fabric on the one side, and you're going to have a tiny bit on the front. You want to even it out. You want about half on the front and half on the back. So just pull it to, or take it to the other side. Don't pull it. Just flip it to the other side. Make sure you cover that seam that's already back there. And then you're going to take it to the sewing machine. And you are going to sew a seam around this side, tacking this down. You're just going to keep flipping it up and sewing all the way around so that it looks like that. When we get to the corner, I'll show you what to do. When you get to the end of this side, close to the end of one side, maybe about 3 inches up, you're going to flip this corner up like this. If you need to, you can clip some of this corner above the seam to get rid of some of the bulkiness there. And then you're going to flip it up. So I'm over here under the sewing machine, so I did it over here so you could see it. Maybe you can see it better from this angle. We're going to sew till we get close to the end. And then you're going to have on this corner, if you pulled this to the front like you flip it over to sew it, you're going to have that angle right there. You're going to want that. So you pull this side over, pull it side up, and you got that angle right there. You're going to sew till you get close to the end. Then you're going to take this, hold this angle down, flip it up so that you've got a perfect crease right there. So you're going to keep it like that. You're going to flip it up and you're going to sew until you get to covering that seam. So now you know that that's tacked down. You're going to lift your foot up and turn it the other way. And then you're going to hold this side down just like you did a minute ago. Put your foot back down and start sewing. We're going to sew all the way to the edge. You don't want to pull this over, but you do want to cover that seam that we just sewed in there. You're going to go all the way till you're almost on the edge. Now when you get down here, you're going to hold this like this, and you're going to have that edge like that again. Go towards the edge, and now hold this down. I can't do it when you're without you seeing it. I'm trying to do it at a different angle, but you're going to hold this down with this right hand and flip it up. So what you're going to do is you're going to have this angle. You're going to flip this side up, and it's going to create this seam. And you're going to sew all the way till you cross that seam. Then you're going to pick up your foot, turn it, go down this side, and sew again. And I'll show you. This is the seam you're wanting to make in the corner. That's what you're trying to get to, is the flip over to make that. You're going to do that on all the corners, and then we're done. So here we are with our finished product. We have a long table runner for the top of the table that is insulated so that we can put hot plates on it and not have to worry about the individual hot pads. This is going to be wonderful. Game changer. We're excited. So we're going to use this on the table as is. You'll see the binding, and the binding worked perfect. Remember that you can use this any size. You can do little, you can do medium, you can do big, anything. And it doesn't have to be strips like these are. It just, this is what I had scraps and this is what I used. And this one is, I was just trying to show you a simple way to do this. You can do anything. You could do stars across here. You could do bunnies across here for Easter. You could do anything. So the ideas are limitless. Get creative with it. Do whatever you want, whatever colors you want. This is a great housewarming gift, Christmas gift, birthday gift, wedding gift, you name it, you can use this as a gift. Wonderful gift. Anyone would love it. So get started today, get creative, send me some pictures of what you've done just so I can see what you've done, and we would love to see it. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. I hope you've learned a lot from this video. If you have questions, let us know. Comments, let us go. And as always, like and subscribe. You don't know what it means to us to get the likes on these videos. We spend a lot of time on these videos, and when we get those likes, it means the world to us because we know someone's listening, someone's enjoying it, and hopefully they're learning from it. So like, subscribe to our channel, and until next time, happy quilting.